Hello and welcome to From Story to Impact, where we talk about the stories of our lives. I'm your host, Steve Gallegos, and I want to thank you for giving us your time and attention. This is the official show of the Voices of Impact Awards, and the event is an annual event that celebrates and recognizes the voices that inspire humanity. And when we talk about voices, we're talking about your voice, either as a songwriter or through your own personal story. Because we know you've had struggles and you've had challenges, and you've also had some joyful, epic experiences from which you've learned valuable lessons. These lessons and experiences can guide others to do better and be better in their personal lives, their relationships, their careers, and their business endeavors. Stories is what connects us one to another. Stories open the door to understanding one another. Stories give meaning to our past, they provide a framework for the present, and stories allow us to envision the future. Stories can make us laugh and sing and cry, and they inspire us to bring out new products and create new companies and bring new ideas and much needed solutions to the world. So if you want to compete in the Voices of Impact Awards, you don't need to be a celebrity, a social media influencer, or even a published author. You only need the courage to share your original song or your personal story with the world. And if you've never presented in public before, that's okay, because we have a team of expert collaborators that will guide and direct you on how to write and speak and share your heroic story. To learn more and to apply for your chance to be a finalist and win $20,000 in cash and a book contract from Morgan James Publishing, head on over to voiawards.com and register. Make it your contribution to the world. And speaking of stories, our studio guest today, although it's a virtual studio, is Cindy Birkland, who is a leading professional mortgage and financial advisor. She is located in the amazing city and community of Las Vegas, Nevada, and she gets to serve clients all around the country with her mortgage and financial services. And so I had the chance to listen to her speak a couple of weeks ago at another event, and I was just wowed, really, by the story. This woman's story of redemption, of perseverance, of rising from the ashes. And I'm not going to get into the details. I'm going to let her get into the details because it's a very impactful story. So please welcome to the studio, Cindy Birkland. Hello, Cindy.
Morning, Steve. Thank you for having me. And this is very exciting.
When I heard your story a couple of weeks ago when we met at the other event, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is a story the world needs to hear, because not only is it impactful from just the true experience of it, but it's probably something that a lot of people or many people have gone through or are going through, right? When they have a person in their life that is doing things that is not necessarily beneficial, right, for the person or the relationship or the community or whatever. So on that note, Cindy, I'll let you bring us into it. Tell us what happened.
Well, I had been, since I was an adult, I got into the mortgage industry very, very young. I was recruited into the business. I had started into title and escrow and then into the financial world in finance, but I was recruited into the mortgage world, and I was so excited about it because there was a good bit of money to be made in mortgage. I had been in title and escrow, and I hadn't been, as I was progressing my career, everything got better financially. Well, as I got into mortgage, I just fell in love with it. I was quickly promoted through the ranks into management, and I was given a branch in Vegas. By the time I was 26 years old, I'd only been in the mortgage business 1 year, and came out to Vegas. And Vegas was a totally different market than Portland, Oregon, where I was from. And
those are worlds apart. Those are two different planets that you are on.
Well, and I was like, we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. I was really like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make money at the bank that I was working for. So very quickly, I was recruited to come out and broker with the firm. And within probably a year of that, I opened up my own mortgage company. We were very, very successful. By now, the economy was booming, going great guns. And I would say for about 7 years, we were just slaying it. We were, I went from a no name to the #2 mortgage company in the state of Nevada in very short time. Before you knew it, we had 85 loan officers. I had 15 people on staff to support them. And we were just making money hand over fist and doing well. And I was also buying and selling houses, flipping them, and had the world by the tail. And
it sounds like it. Cindy, what years was this, just to give the audience a framework?
About 21 to 2007, 2001 to 2007, we were doing really, really well. When you're in such a booming economy, when you've been around for a while, people really trust you. And, we had a great referral business, but I was out, always been out in the community, and we were doing just a lot of loans. And as I was growing my financial empire, I was like, wow, I really need to get clear on what I want for my retirement, get everything going. And so I started to, reach out to people that were in the money business, financial advisors, financial planners, and, I need to do something with my money. And I was so busy at this time. Now I have, 3 small children, and I've got a mortgage company, and I've got other businesses. And I just was of the mentality, like, I'm going to give you my money and I want you to take care of it, and you do the right thing with my money, invest it for me, make me lots of money. And that wasn't the best plan, because as we know, in 2008, everything the world went upside down. Yeah. And
Cindy, let me interrupt. Who are you giving your money to? You don't have to mention names, but are we talking about outside advisors?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, I thought fairly diversified. I had my real estate, but I also wanted my money to be, in other things. So now, I understood real estate and I knew all about that, but I did not know the money game. I did not know how investments worked or any of that. I didn't understand the stock market, but I trusted my advisors, and I'm like, just take care of it. But because I wasn't educated on money and my advisors were just like, yeah, we'll take it from here, I did not realize what they were doing with my money. And what ended up happening is I lost multiple 7 figures of income because I trusted somebody else with it, and nobody cares more about your money than you do. And, for them, they were making money on the products that they were putting me in, but I was amazing. And I don't think that's that's not fair. Knowing what I know now, I was like, wow, I was set up to lose from the, and they set themselves up very well. So for me, losing millions and millions and millions of dollars, and now because of that, it started a domino effect with everything else. And I just couldn't keep everything together. And, when the hurricane hit, or the smoke, when I came out of the smoke, I was like, oh my gosh, I have nothing left. I mean, everything was a complete loss. And I was so angry. And I just was like, I had a conversation with God, and I was like, God, I need you to help me figure out what happened here, because this doesn't make any logical sense. And if you ever help me figure this out, I will scream from the rafters what happened and how to avoid this. And so that's how I ended up eventually getting into the financial industry, because I was like, this will never happen to anybody on my watch. There's got to be something different. So, luck would have it that a couple of years later, I ended up in the money business. And I was going into training and I was working with supervisors, I was realizing bit by bit what had happened to me and what the advisors had done to me that were not good products for me. And I realized that there has to be education. And I felt, especially for women, that the numbers are not good when men and women get divorced. Usually women are the ones that lose the most because they understand least about money. And so for me, I thought I was a pretty smart gal. I had been in the mortgage business for years and, felt like I knew a lot about money, but I did not. And so now I spend so much time educating my clients. Usually the first appointment, they sit down with me and we spend at least an hour and a half, and we do something called How Money Works. And I say, I want you to understand how this whole process works and how money works and why certain products are better than others and certain products only certain people can have, and why you would do this product versus this one. And usually when I'm done on the first appointment, I tell people, even if I think they know quite a bit about money, I usually always hear like, wow, I had no idea. And they become very loyal and raving fans because they know that I'm putting them in something that is best for them, and they're in the driver's seat when it comes to their money, but now they're very, very educated. And I've had clients that come to me and saying, I worked with my financial company for years, but I don't know anything about what's going on with my money. And they basically give me if the conversation goes something like that, we'll take it, honey. It's okay. We'll deal with your money. It's not a good feeling when someone else is talking to you like that, and you need to know what's going on with your money. And education is so key when it comes to what I do. Exactly.
And, that particular situation affects so many people, men and women, right? Because we grew up in an environment where we were simply told, money doesn't grow on trees necessarily. But for my experience, I don't remember being taught how to balance a checkbook. I don't remember, my parents didn't teach me anything about money or credit cards or anything like that. And so most of us were thrown out into the world and, hey, you got your credit card, and hey, you're going to buy a car, and hey, you're going to get your first mortgage, not really understanding the impact of all of this and how it's going to affect you long term. And then you start, making investments. And fortunately, since the age of the internet, right, since 2002, 3, 4, when the internet started developing, then we all started having access to the same information, which is good because now we can make new and different decisions. However, the information is so prolific. In other words, there's so much information. Now the problem became not just a lack of access to the information, but how do you sift through it and evaluate, is this good for me? Is this not good for me? And so we relied a lot on these, financial advisors who, said, yeah, we'll take care of it for you and we've got your back. And you want to trust them because they were human beings that you're dealing with, right? Not just an ATM machine.
Right.
And they talked to you, they sat down, oh yeah, Cindy, we're going to make a plan for you and all of those things. So let me ask you, the education that you got, was it self-education by reading books and attending courses, or did you actually return to school and get a degree in finance?
No, I don't have a degree in finance at all. Really, I feel like it's time in the industry, but I had some really great coaches that just really poured into me, because I think what they saw in me is I'm a connector at heart. I love people. I have a huge following. Whatever it is I do, I'm blessed where I just have people that, come along for the ride, whatever I'm up to. So they knew that I would have a great number of clients because I have a sales ability and a natural ability with people. And they knew that they needed to pour into me. And the more I knew, the better off we would be. And for me, though, I'm a very competitive person. I don't do number 2 very well. I have to be number 1 at everything I do. It's a sickness, I think. As I learned products, I just would ask a lot of questions and why this and why would you do this and why this and this product sounds perfect and why doesn't everybody do this? And then they laugh and say, well, this is the downfall of this one, So I knew every product, every pro and con, why you would do certain things, because I was so interested. Because of my losses, I had a very different bird's eye view. Is everything for me came through a lens of protecting my client. Well, what's the downfall of this one? And what's the downfall? So I asked probably millions of questions, but I had people very patient with me and they poured in, and I just keep working at something until I master it. So for me, it was just really learning how to explain money in a very simple teaching. I do a lot of visual training. I get out a pen and paper and I show people how money compounds and how it works. I explain the difference between simple interest and compound interest and how inflation works and all the things. I explain it in a very simple way to understand because I understand things simply. And what I find that a lot of people in the money industry, financial advisors, financial planners, they like to show you how smart they are. Mm-hmm. But problem with that is they really alienate most clients. So for me, I was like, when they were doing that to me, I didn't want to feel stupid. So I was just like, oh yeah, I trust you, you know, and I didn't probably ask the right questions, and they didn't set it up that way because they just wanted to be the expert and you just listen to what I say. But I want my clients to be the expert at money, and money is not complicated. It can be explained very simply and understood very simply. So usually when I'm done with people in my 45-minute presentation, I ask them questions and I'm like, you're hired. You could actually do what I do because it's that simple. And they're like, wow, I just didn't know that. People really need to understand how money works. And what I do really needs to be taught in grade school, junior high, high school, and college. And it's not taught in any of those things.
Correct.
So,
correct. Do you have a book in the works, or do you have any programs, courses that people can take from you?
Right now, I do a lot of educating on my podcast. So every day I will do a short videos on certain things. I ask a lot of my friends and clients, what do you want to hear today? And a lot of them say, inflation's on the rise, talk about inflation. So I will do short videos almost every day about something that I think that people need. I do have 2 books in the works. One of them is really about relationships in business. And then the other one is about my story of what I went through in 2008, my ashes story. So I'm writing, both of those are in the works right now. But
very good. We'll be excited when those come out because I'm sure there's going to be bestsellers. And speaking of bestseller, you have another story that is probably, I don't know, judging on a scale, do I rather lose $7 million or whatever the amount was, multiple millions, or go through this kind of experience? I mean, you got hit, you got blindsided, I guess it would be a good term for it.
Yeah.
In a different way too, from a relationship. Tell us about that.
So he and I had been friends for many, many years. And when we started dating, he was also in the mortgage business. So he came to work for my mortgage company. And, it just made sense. We were talking about, we're going to be getting married, and why should he work in another mortgage company and I'm at mine? And we should just kind of pool all of our, efforts and income together.
Love will do that to you, right? It makes
find everything. Looking back, we had a due diligence period that we went through when we bring on loan officers and anybody that came to work for the company. We called on their references and found out about them and stuff. And for me, since I was dating him, I really didn't do all of that. You fall in love with somebody and you're like, well, it's my honey. You feel like you don't need to take all those precautions.
Sure.
And looking back, had I done that and really dug a little deeper, I would have never brought him onto the company. And what ended up happening as, our relationship progressed and babies are on the way, and he ended up wanting to take more control over the company. And here's the thing. I had a company that the reason we had been so successful was our culture. And we had a very family culture in our office. Everyone very much cared about each other. We did things for each other to help with business. We didn't really have competition within our office. The culture was super unique. I mean, I used to have banks that we would work with come in, and they'd come in and talk, and they'd never want to leave. And they're like, we just love hanging out here. The energy was so powerful. And people were knocking down our door to come work at the office. And as he came in, he little bit by little bit started changing the culture, and it was not working. And unfortunately, he waited until I was out having a baby. I was having surgery. I had a C-section. And as soon as I was not able to come into the office, he went in and just started changing everything, changing people's compensation, just doing all kinds of things that were you just don't do. And by the time I came back to the office, I had lost over 50 loan officers. But not only that, he was doing things that were not exactly legal. And next thing I know, I'm being brought up on charges for illegal things because I was the broker of the company. And oh my gosh, it set off a chain of events that, like a made-for-TV movie. And next thing I know, I'm in big trouble, hot water, and
You were actually arrested and handcuffed, right?
I was brought up on charges, and next thing I know, he's out of the country. He fled the country.
Oh, really? Wow.
I've got now 3 young children. I don't know what's just happened. I've got to get an attorney and dig my way out. And it was the most horrifying experience I could ever imagine ever being in. It was my darkest moment. Had I not been a Christian person, I probably would have ended my life. It was so dark. There's just no way to describe that level of deception from especially somebody that you love and you trust. And I was just standing there and just watching my world disintegrate in front of my eyes. Like, obviously, when something like that happens, your reputation is now just torched. I was getting letters from banks and everything, and I was literally had to spend 100% of my time focused on getting out of that situation and figuring out what happened and working with my attorneys, with everything. I mean, long story short, I was exonerated of everything, but we had to work for years to get him back into the country, get him arrested, get him where, he ended up facing charges and, was put in jail for that. And I was exonerated from that, but it was quite a situation. It became a high profile case. I couldn't have the TV on at all. I couldn't chance my children seeing that on TV. It was something that my very closest friends were like, one day you need to write a book about this. Yeah. Because nobody would even believe it. And I journaled every day walking through that process because I could not believe, had I not written things down, I wouldn't believe it happened. It was so surreal. But, God is good. And I said, Lord, if you ever help me get through this situation, I will absolutely sing of your praises. And God just walked me through that and gave me the grace to get through it, because there were days that I didn't think I could even stand, and just trying to raise 3 little kids and keep them out of the limelight, and then reinventing myself. Because at that point, the mortgage business for me had to go on pause. Yeah. And
what year did this happen?
This happened in 2008, right when the crash was happening. So I would have been able to stay afloat. I mean, I had put things in place where I would have been able to sustain the 2008 crash in my company. However, when you catch charges like that, there was no staying afloat through that. It ended up going on a hiatus for a while, but.
So you never ended up marrying this individual, right?
No, and it was really interesting. We had gotten engaged, but every time it came time for me to plan the wedding, like we needed to get going, and he was hounding me about, hey, why aren't we progressing this along? I would get this very sick feeling in my stomach, like I just would get sick to my stomach about it. And so I just kept delaying it. And he'd get very angry with me and screaming at me. And I'm like, I not feeling good about marrying you. And my intuition and my gut ended up to be very right on, because I'm like, why do I feel like this? I don't understand why I keep getting sick every time I think about getting married to him. And, that was just God's inner voice guiding me along. And I think that because by now, we had a child together, and I thought, well, we just need to go ahead and get married. And I think that was just God protecting me when that case happened, that I'm going to make it a way so you can never be with him. Like, he's on a plane out of the country. Like it was kind of done at that time, to say the least. And I think that was just God's way of protecting me, that I didn't marry him.
Absolutely. We get these promptings, and especially women, you are generally, right? Not every woman listens and not every woman is in tune with it, but women are said to have this sixth sense, right? Of this intuitive notion. And I know my wife has it, and I've learned to listen to her over the years whenever she has these initial, just gut feelings is what it is. It's your intuitive, it's your GPS system, whatever you want to call it. your guidance system letting you know that this person we should stay away from, that person is okay, or we should not make this financial move, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I've learned to listen and honor that. But a lot of people don't honor their own guidance systems. I mean,
Yeah.
you're a very good example of it. You realize something was wrong, but there were no outward signs, at least at that time, to kind of show you that there's more to this than just, a sick, icky feeling, right? Because you hadn't had anybody, or there weren't any signs that he had committed fraud or theft with any other organizations that he had been involved with, right?
Mm-hmm. And we just weren't monitoring him like that. Like we have steps and procedures in place when you're in the mortgage industry. It's a money industry. So
right.
There's a lot of checks and balances. Right. And, he had his own staff and I had mine on, he had a different team, and I was just relying on his staff, to be checking things. But I was not doing the detailed things that I needed to do with his side of the fence because of our personal relationship. And that is just, I ended up doing a little story on that and just talking, a friend of mine was like, you really need to tell this story and share this with other women, because if there are women getting into business with someone, with their someone they're dating and stuff, all those checks and balances still need to happen when we're, in a relationship. And what's interesting now for me is, as much as I hate doing that, because I ended up with people telling such bad stories about me, like with Google and all, when you end up in the limelight, and obviously you're seen in a bad light. So I ended up feeling so horrible about checking people's backgrounds and everything, because I felt like it was so intrusive. But it has to be done sometimes. Like, we have to do the hard things if we want good things. Yeah. And I everything when I'm working with people, because of my clients, and I have to protect my friends, my family, my clients, I do extra steps when it comes to due diligence when I work with certain people, especially if it affects my clients' money. I've had clients come to me and say, well, what do we know about this company? And I'm like, actually, I've done 2 exhaustive searches on them, and I've paid an outside firm, and they're like, oh, it's just lessons learned.
Exactly. And I don't blame you. We do a comprehensive background check on anybody that we partner with in business, or that we are considering partnering with in business, because, it's so easy to steal identities, or to steal someone's valor, or to steal someone's experience, and become someone who you're not, right? And you can fool the world. And, thanks to the internet, we have access to the information, but then there's just so much information out there that it's hard to sift through. Yeah. And with you, what happened to you, because that's one of the things I did was, to let me find out about Cindy Birkland. I wanted to learn more, right? Not that I was investigating you, but I wanted to learn more. And then I saw these Google stories about the arrest and the charges, and I'm going, oh no, which should be a good guess. And then I kept reading and researching, but here's the problem with Google and those search engines is they didn't announce anywhere, hey, Cindy Birkland was exonerated of charges. Yeah. Right? They didn't. You have to really dig deep to find out, the end of the story. There's all kinds of stories about the arrest and, those kinds of things and what you were accused of, but Google and the law enforcement doesn't issue a letter or a press release to Google. And maybe they should, right? Because a lot of people, do get into these problematic situations, to say the least, and your reputation is tarnished. I can only imagine what you went through, when these charges initially came out. I mean, here you've got a whole stable of clients. You're one of the most respected mortgage advisors in your community, and then all of a sudden the morning news is reporting this and showing you being led in handcuffs. And I bet, did you lose a lot of friends? And I know you lost clients.
It was really, and it's funny that you mentioned this, Steve, about Google, because we're actually doing a story on that right now, because I have a friend and he's like, oh my God, Cindy, I have met you and you're the most amazing person and I love doing business with you. And he goes, you have one of the worst Googles I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And he said, this just doesn't even seem fair. And he actually reached out to a couple of news companies and said, would you mind looking at this story? Because this is just not even right. And they're actually having me lead the way about this, about what's happening with people, because I'm not the only person this has ever happened to. People fall into bad times, or bad things happen to good people. And, in my case, I saw my way out of it. And a lot of people, good people, will always figure out how to rise to the top. And so that is my story. It's one of ashes out of, beauty out of ashes. But it's like, the police did the right thing. The state did the right thing. Everything happened the right way. But it's like Google hasn't done the right thing. Yeah. And Google doesn't know to. It's a very unique thing. So you can wear a scarlet letter on your chest for the rest of your life if people only look at Google. And, my friend did say, just like you went deeper to find all the information. You found the rest of the story. But a lot of people that have gone to do business with me in the past saw that Google and just were like, sorry,
Right.
And I just sit there going, I can't be in the industry that I am. I can't get the license that I have with having issues on my record. And sure. I, again, been exonerated, but it's like, I wouldn't have I'm licensed in 7 states, if not more. And I'm licensed in mortgage, and I'm licensed in financial things. So I can't get those licenses having any kind of a bad record.
Right. Criminal record.
But a lot of people just, once they see something like that, they're out of there. And so I'm kind of like I think, become the poster child of setting the record straight the right way. So I did want to address that piece with you.
It needs to be done. Law enforcement should either, issue a press release, right? Or the district attorney or the attorney general, whoever it is that's handling the case, they should be required by law to, when someone's exonerated like this, not just say, okay, sorry, Cindy, we made a mistake, or, good luck to you, whatever, right? They didn't even give you a cupcake, nothing, not a cup of coffee, nothing. They just said, go, good luck to you. But it should be, as a matter of law, that they'd be required to at least issue a press release, because it's not, you're right, it's not Google's fault. Google just reports what others report to it. Yeah. Google doesn't create its own information, its own content. It's all content that other people post.
But it will stay on there forever if somebody doesn't de-link the story, or something positive isn't put on there. And for a lot of people that don't have, and I have spent man hours like you would not believe trying to figure out how to fix this. And it's really not fixable unless the company or the place that wrote the story delinks the story. And in a world where everybody's so busy and they're always after the latest story, to get somebody to do that is no short of a miracle. And I mean, we're working on that as we speak.
One of the other things you can do is to issue your own press release, right? So that now that comes up near the top. And then articles about this is another way. So you write articles about the topic, you write articles about the subject, you write articles about your experience. So all of these are beneficial and positive, and they will stay on top. And eventually you start bearing this is what we call reputation management in law, right? Yeah. Reputation management. And so we just, you might want to, because it'll require a lot of content in order to push all that negative stuff down, right? But at least when people find the negative stuff, there will be all that positive stuff up front, which it's you, when you're up there in a podcast or an article where you're the one declaring, look, this happened to me, I was exonerated, and this is my life now. That carries a lot of weight and a lot of value, because people say, oh, well, she can't be a bad person if she's the one that's bringing this to the forefront, as opposed to me having to search it,
right?
On page 10 of Google. So reputation management is very important in this situation. And
I'm learning all of this stuff, everything that you're saying. It's so great that we've met, because I'm in, God keeps leading me to all these people, because it's like I'm trying dig my way out of this even still. I mean, it's a process, Steve.
It is. I know.
It's 1 second to get into hot water, but it's a whole nother getting out of it.
A lifetime to get out of it. Exactly. But, but you do have options and you do have resources. And most important, I mean, you have your life, you have your career, you have your health, your children are, I imagine, doing awesome. Your business is doing awesome. The clients that you do have that want to work with you, well, those are the ones that are supposed to be with you. The ones that look at some negative remark and say, well, that's it. I'm not okay. No fault on them, but it's just their nature, right? You've got a lot of things going for you. And this show, this podcast, once we release it, is going to help you along that way to clear the air and position you as, someone that, I got in trouble because of my blindfolds, right? The blindfolds I was wearing.
That's a great thing to call it. It was a blindfold.
Exactly. Not because I did anything wrong, but I was blindfolded. Right. This story, not just for women, but men also too, are taken advantage of. And we let our guard down, right? When we get into relationships and we give access to our finances and our checkbook and our resources and our relationships. And it's tough, but you really have to be careful these days and quote unquote, who you get into bed with, right?
Literally.
Exactly. And figuratively. Yeah. I meant it figuratively, but it's literally as well. So you've got a lot to teach. You've got a lot, to educate others on. And you know what, Cindy, had you not gone through the experience, you wouldn't be in a position to talk to women about finance. That's
true.
Right.
And this was a commitment that I had made. My very best friend that, I think you asked me if I lost any friends, was very interesting. The people I thought would most stay with me left me. And the people I thought most least likely to, stay with me actually stayed with me. My best friend in the whole world, since then she's passed away. And, had it not been through for her, I don't know how I would have survived that. And she said to me in my darkest moment, I ended up having to stay at her house for like 5 weeks when everything hit the fan. And she sat me down on the couch one night and I was just in hysteria. And I was sitting on her couch and she literally got down in front of her on her knees in front of me. And she asked me this question, I'll never forget it. She said, if you could save the life of one woman with this story, would you? Would it be worth it? And I said, yeah. And she said, then tell the story. Hold your head up and walk through this and tell the story. Promise me that you will write a book about this when it's time. So I am writing the book. It is not an easy book to write because it requires me to go back and relive this. But I made a promise and I intend to keep that promise because she was right. There's been a lot of women that would not be in a good situation at all had I not been there for them and walked them down a path, whether it be financial or with relationships. And I speak a lot to women's groups now. And it's because I can tell these stories and people relate with, oh my gosh, I can't believe someone else has been through this, but now I'm hearing this and now I have hope. And hope is something that we desperately need in our world today.
Yeah, a never-ending supply of hope, and it requires, takes good people like you to do it. I mean, what a powerful story. Thank you so much, Cindy, for sharing. I recommend that you participate in the Voices of Impact Awards because fortunately, I'm not a judge, right? I'm the co-founder of the company and I've removed myself from judging because I have so many friends with, impactful stories, much like yours and, different stories, right? Different scenarios and those kinds of things. Impactful, emotional, gripping, nonetheless, valuable, certainly. And so I've removed myself from the position of having to judge and see who's the winner, but we're going to select 10 finalists and one of them is going to win $20,000 in cash. All of the finalists are going to get cash prizes and other rewards that we develop from the relationships that we're continuing to build. So, I can't think of a better way for you to get this out there to the world. So you should definitely consider it.
I will definitely do that. I made a promise to God too, that I would tell the story. there's other people that people that I've never even met now, in the future that need to hear the story because something's going on in their life and we just don't know what that is. It's just being a beacon of light and hope for people. By telling the story.
And there'll be people that you never will meet who you will impact, right? Because they're in some other part of the world, but they listen to your story and say, well, this happened to her, and if she can make it through, I can make it through as well. And so I'm just so grateful, Cindy, that you've given us of your time and you were willing to be vulnerable and having the courage to share your story with us. That this is going to go out to the world, right? And so it's not easy, right? Because we want our lives to be a certain way, or we have a vision for the person that we want to be and who we want to present ourselves to the world. And I'm sure that you didn't wake up one day and say, I want to be the person that loses a couple $1 million due to,
and their relationship and their reputation and all of that.
Exactly. I want to be that person. Yeah, no. But, you are. Circumstances brought that to you, and you're just, like you said, you're a beacon of light, and we are grateful for your time. Any parting words for our audience?
Well, there's a saying that I ran into the other day, and it said, if you find yourself in hell, straighten up your back and keep walking and act like you own the place, but keep walking.
Love it. Yeah. Pretend you own the place and take charge. Yeah, take charge. Make new decisions. Very good, very good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this episode with our guest, Cindy Birkland. We're going to have all of her contact information down below in the show notes so that if you need mortgage or other financial services, there's a lot of people that are singing her praises, right? Because of what she's gone through. She has a different kind of mentality, a different kind of ability and desire to serve people in a way that most of the marketplace does not. And you deserve that kind of representation. You deserve that kind of person in your corner that I know that Cindy Birkland will be. So make sure you get a hold of her and let her know that you saw this particular episode and how much you appreciate her sharing her story. So on that note, please go to the voicesofimpactawards.com, voiawards.com, and register to become one of our storytellers. Or if you're a songwriter, musician, and you have an original song that you think will inspire the world, songs like Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, or another one of my favorites is Mercy Me's I Can Only Imagine, which you probably know, Cindy. Great songs, right? And there's so many more, right? John Lennon's I Imagine, and, I could go on and on and on for another couple hours just listing all the amazing songs. But do that because, as Cindy has shared, we need hope. And you, as a songwriter, you as a storyteller, sharing your story, what you've been through with the world, gives us hope and lets us know that we're not going to hell in a handbasket anytime soon, because we have great people like Cindy Birkland still on the planet to make sure that, hey, if we're in hell, we're going to straighten up and walk right through it, pretend we own the place. So right. on that note, thank you very much once again, Cindy Birkland, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you, Steve.